Sunday, the day I'm recording this. I'll apologize again for no upload last week. I'm trying to go for an upload every week, but lately that's been pretty difficult, so I guess you can expect once every week or once every other week. I'll try not to take any longer than that for the uploads. So today, we're working on the central station for Captiva. I hinted at this before of what I had in mind, just showing the elevated tracks and such, but I never really knocked anything out in particular. But the main plan is that it serves as a metro and train station combined, I guess, and it's inspired roughly by the planned Miami station, in Miami, of course. So there's some limitations to what I could do with it, but for the most part, I nailed it pretty good. So I had to move where I had the metro debuts before, which is what I'm doing right now. I don't really detail it this episode, but if that's something any of you guys want to see, I'll probably end up putting that in later. I just did this because I needed to change where the metro depot was so it would make sense, and it was much easier to access for the new train station. So the main premise for the episode is that the train station is sort of, it's more of the area around it, because it's basically the idea is that it created a large increase in value for real estate. So basically all of that area that you can see right now, all those roads are going to be filled in by like modern condo buildings and the such. It's inspired a bit by stuff in Toronto as well, as a lot of my things are, but for the most part it's inspired by Miami. And I really like the way these train stations actually, or train tracks I should say, divide up the area, because then you have these spaces in between that are full of high density buildings, and I think it comes together really great. This is probably one of my favorite parts of the city now. Yeah, so I know I have some conflict there with the train tracks and the metro tracks. The metro tracks kind of take priority since there's a lot more of them, and Florida as a whole isn't really connected by rail very much, so the central station isn't going to be very big. I was tempted to use something bigger just to show off what I'd want to do, but I do actually build something just for fun, way off in the corner of the map. It's like a giant, much larger central station, and it's nowhere near done, but I might upload that just as a standalone thing. I probably won't even keep it. It's just, because I like building train stations, I guess you could say. So, yeah. So this footage is actually extremely old, some of this. I got it quite a while back, but just because of the way episodes have been uploaded, I never really got around to actually uploading it. So here we are, actually doing it. So I'm using this new condo asset, or relatively new. When it came out, it was new, okay? So I use that a lot, and it looks tremendous. You don't see me putting down any of the buildings quite yet, because for the most part, I'm just trying to get all the tracks in the right spot, which is not quite as important because I'll end up doing that again later, I'm sure, but it's kind of important right now. Yeah, so yeah, just working on this for a bit. I try to keep it fairly fast, this kind of part of the video, just because there's nothing really too interesting happening. Yeah, I thought this episode would be a lot shorter than it was, but I'm looking at it right now and it's actually fairly long, which is good. I figure if I'm gonna drop an episode every other week, they might as well be longer episodes, right? So yeah, I get on to the central station, and I sort of had an idea of what I was going to do already, because the train station is just like it's small, and it serves, but it's got a lot of amenities, and these towers are like, I'm imagining these are like office towers, and the whole area, everything connected to the train station is like an office tower. Then you'll see around it, there's a lot of high density, like residential stuff being built, and I even put in some construction sites in this episode, which I think look great, and you definitely won't want to miss that. So I encourage you to watch the whole episode, although I don't think that really has to be said. Yeah, so I only have 4 platforms. 2 are metro and 2 are actually for trains. I think they look pretty good. Definitely the metro ones I like a lot. I know I had an issue with those way back. Almost thought I lost my save game, but no, I didn't. So right now I'm just trying to test out what I'm going to use, and I think of just the right asset, and I use these in combination with those. these and those. I should have gotten the names of those assets, but I'm pretty sure most of them are, one of those are vanilla, so I can't really get a name. Anyway, not important. So you just see me going across with those, and yeah, it's strangely it cuts to this. I'm building a construction site, I guess now. I didn't really watch the footage before now, which is probably not good, but you know, it's how I make my videos. So yeah. Of course, this wouldn't be Captiva Key if I wasn't putting down some parking lots, which I do, of course. This is throughout the whole build, and I don't really think of how green the development would be in theory, mostly because in real life, I mean, developers aren't always concerned about that. So yeah, that was my logic for it. It's probably not the best, but it'll have to do. So right here, as what you're seeing, I'm putting down a lot more buildings. I think this is the point in the video where I decide exactly what I want to do with this area. I put down a lot of different buildings just to give me a general idea of what's going to happen in the future. I definitely stick with those two right there because I'd always been meaning to use this asset somewhere in the city, and I never really got around to it. So now I figured it was the perfect opportunity. This might not make a ton of sense, but in Miami and a lot of tropical areas, when they build buildings, they tend not to be so dark, right? Because darker colors absorb heat. So I wasn't too sure about some of the assets I used here, but for the most part, I think I had a pretty good selection. I guess we can just say that it doesn't really matter what color they are. Yeah, I had power issues for the whole area because I was developing it. I was building it at different times, so having power was always kind of an issue for the region, or just part of the city. It's not really a region at all. Yeah, so I have some issues with this because I want to put down ploppable asphalt after this, but I never, it proved to be a bit difficult because the terrain wasn't flat enough, which is obviously a giant problem. And if the terrain isn't flat, then you can't use ploppable asphalt at all, really. You get tons of terrain glitches and such. So I tried to just figure out where those were. It took me a while, but I ended up with something that was pretty good because I went just a little bit, not up, I raised it just a little bit so that way the asphalt looked good enough, I think. Or I can't remember, but I might not even have gone over it with asphalt at all, which would have been a bit surprising to me, but yeah. As you can tell, I fill in just a lot of empty spaces with parking lots in this, mostly because obviously when you're building around train tracks, there's not always going to be room for entire buildings. And since you can't really just fit buildings into any space, at least not the ones I'm looking into anyway, it becomes a really big issue when you want to fill in empty spaces. So right now I think I'll leave you guys with a little bit of music, and I'll jump right back in when I explain a little bit more about what I'm doing with the more of the condo buildings, and yeah, I'll see you then. Alright, so I'm back, and right now I'm working on this other small condo project. I made sure not to make any of them too tall or too large. In the back you can see I used some props, they're all props, to make a construction site. And I think that turned out amazing, but I'll talk about what's on hand right now. So this is a condo thing I should say, that I built entirely out of it was a low density residential asset, like a level one low density residential building, and I stacked them on top of each other with Move It, and I think it just looks amazing. Maybe not perfect for a downtown setting, but this is sort of getting into midtown, so I don't think it's too bad. So here I'm actually working on the first normal neighborhood, you could say. So I guess this would be the first area that you would see that would be what this area was before it gentrified, which I guess is the best way to describe what all this is. It's really gentrification. So basically, I'm looping it in with these small homes that I've seen. This is before the ploppable growables mod was released. So I used Move It to copy and paste those, just because there's no use not doing that, really. I'm going to end up using the same buildings anyway. So I really go loose with these fences because I imagine in reality there wouldn't be too much care and maintenance towards how the fences were directed or any of that anyway. And it looks really rough and it doesn't look great, and I would imagine that's part of the reason why this whole project in the Captiva key was taken under anyway, to improve areas such as this. And I would say it worked. But of course I'll leave some neighborhoods like that, which you'll see here. And yeah, so here I continue to go over the houses, checking just to see that if they're all level, putting down some more props just over there. And here I go again, just with some more growable buildings, copying and pasting, of course. The neighborhoods are fairly bland, and I ended up detailing them all like I just did that one. And I decided this would be an easier way to maintain the levels. I do end up getting rid of this because I don't like having districts, surprisingly enough. I don't think they look very good, especially when you're looking from above, because it blocks a lot of the urban sprawl that you can usually see, which is kind of not really good. I don't really like that, and it's one of those small things that just bothers me. So yeah, I decided to put in some really low, not low wealth, this isn't SimCity, low density shops and stuff like that. And I needed a fire station, of course, because I just destroyed that big one, so I put in one of the Brooklyn buildings. And obviously this wouldn't have a lot of Brooklyn buildings in real life, most likely, but I don't think there's much of a Miami theme at all in real life, in the game, not in real life. But yeah, I think it works out pretty good. Yeah, so I just put a parking lot in this empty space because I didn't want the whole area to be completely gentrified. Would have been probably extremely unrealistic. And yeah, so I decided to fill in this little corner space instead of with more parking with this giant, not a giant planter, but more of a giant green space, which I think looks really good. It was a good way to fill in this area, I think. I end up going at it with some more trees and such, as I would, which isn't too much of a bad thing, I'd say. Mostly because, you need some greenery, even if it's not a new modern area where that's really, that's the hip and cool thing to have lots of trees everywhere, which is obviously good for the environment too. But I would say, yeah, and wherever I can fit it in, I'll probably put it, especially just considering the climate that Miami in real life is in. Wildlife flourishes, flora and fauna. So yeah, I decided to put down this, I don't even know what to call it really. It's like it's like an area where I guess trucks would go to put away garbage. That's the best way I could describe this. It doesn't really doesn't actually serve any real purpose, but I wanted to fill the space in with something instead of more parking lots. But in hindsight, that might have been better. And I'm just detailing this little intersection because overall the roads don't look too clean. It's really simple for a not so simple interchange. So yeah. So right here I work on another little apartment complex. This one looks a little bit rougher than the other ones, which I think is just a bit of an element that you need to keep in mind, that not everything will look perfect and not everything is intended to look amazing. I wanted to incorporate a sort of hotel at the base of this one, which is something I hadn't really had before. I guess I could pretend certain buildings are hotels, but I didn't really explicitly have one, and I think having a hotel is really important to an area like this because it's such a, I guess you could say, hip and cool area that you'd want something like that. This was towards the later end. This is more recent footage that I actually got, and I was just filling in the spaces with some more condo complexes I thought would fit in really well, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to use here, but I definitely didn't want to use this hall. I was just checking out how it looked. Yeah, I was not going to actually put this down. I was considering it, and if any of you guys have any ideas of where I could put that, that would be amazing, really. I've had some ideas, but nothing too concrete, to be quite honest. Yeah. So I used this, I don't quite know the name. It's not from North America at all. I think it's from somewhere in Thailand. I think it fits in pretty well. It's a nice condo building. You see stuff like this actually in Miami, which is really great. And I do use ploppable asphalt for this. I'm not sure what anyone out there thinks of it, of me using ploppable asphalt, but I think it looks pretty good, and I copy and pasted over it just because I didn't want to run the risk of having just like right there, I didn't want to run the risk of having textures conflicting. So I decided to copy and paste the whole thing and more or less just managed to raise or lower the area around it just that it all be level, because I don't know if it's showed up in cinematics or anyone's picked up on it, but sometimes in cinematics you can pick up that the asphalt is all at different levels. So like one might be a little bit higher than another piece, which is quite honestly really bad because it shows that the terrain isn't level, and I really don't like that. I really wish we had a paint tool for the ploppable asphalt. That would be really cool. And I know we have decals that conform to terrain, but they don't. You can't see those from above, and you also can't put decals on top of those as well. So I think what we have right now is not too bad. I just need to learn to live with it. Yeah, so I go out with foliage. I guess I didn't really explain that. I decided to copy and paste it because these two halves are more or less completely identical, and I know I get some conflict with the building, and there's not too much I can do about that, unfortunately. And I wanted to keep it because overall it looks really good. I'm sure one day I'll try and fix that, but for the most part, it's pretty good. So right here, I decide I want to build one, more or less, I am thinking about it at least right here. I'm deciding to build one final condo complex for this area. In the meantime, obviously on screen you're not seeing that, but you're seeing me build on parking lots. But right here, I decide I want right up against the station some of the taller buildings because it seems sort of empty, and I guess I'm just talking about something that isn't really happening. But I wanted to show that there was going to be one condo building more or less to separate the area in between the ungentrified, just regular old neighborhoods and the area from right by the station, which would be obviously very highly gentrified. And of course, the people who live here could just decide not to do as the developers and city says, and they can just keep their land, which I guess would make sense because not everyone wants to move out all the time, and some people like where they live. And I mean, I'm imagining the people who live here aren't too keen on it. I can't speak today. Aren't too keen on living here, but you never know. I just think that it's nice to have a maybe not so gradual transition sometimes, because the buildings I use here aren't exceptionally tall anyway, especially compared to what's really downtown. So yeah, I go at it with some decals. This is probably not the best neighborhood I've made, or the best block. It's not really a whole neighborhood at all. And I realized I didn't detail all these areas quite enough, but it's not a huge deal, I don't think. So I know I was talking about something I would do far later on, but it's really quite the last thing I do. I guess I'll keep talking about it. I use one of Xi's, or Izai's, that's how you pronounce his name, Izai, not Xi. Izai or Suron's Jumeirah residences. They're located in the Dubai Marina. They're pretty noticeable because they're all extremely similar, and you've probably seen them on the workshop before. They're pretty old now, but they're really nice. I'm just talking about them really because you can't really see what's going on, but you know, it's not too bad. Just looking around, getting an idea of some things that I want to see in the city right now. Yep. So as I was saying, I use these Jumeirah, I guess we'll just call them condo buildings for now. I didn't want to go too tall, mostly because this was supposed to be a descent into, I guess, the inner city suburbs, which you can see, obviously because they're right there. I didn't want anything too tall, and obviously there's not a lot of office buildings out in this area, but I really like everything I've done with this area of the city, and I guess I'll talk about it now. I really enjoy everything I've done up till this point, just in this area at least. I know I have some worker issues and stuff like that. You can see them pop up on screen, but what I do end up having here, I just think looks phenomenal, and what you can see looks amazing. And I know I don't always include all the footage, but what you do end up seeing and what shows up in the cinematics is just quite honestly phenomenal. So I more or less continue detailing this with just more planters and such. I love these assets so much, and I really hope that they don't cause any problems for me in the future. I use hedges and such. I put down some bollards, I think. Oh, and I do use palpable asphalt. See, I wasn't sure, and I didn't want to call out that I was or wasn't, but I definitely do go out with palpable asphalt. And as I've said before, it's an amazing decal, and I recommend you all to get all of these assets that I've listed in, I've mentioned in this. So it is the time for the cinematics, and I hope you all have enjoyed the video. It's a bit longer than usual, but I think a lot of work has been accomplished, and I think really it's one of the best parts of the city that I've made. So yeah, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll leave you guys with the cinematics, and I'll see you next week.